So I've had this idea for a while to do a podcast and wasn't really sure what I wanted to do it about or for. I've got so many crazy things going on inside my head and just trying to figure out what's going to be the most productive way to approach this, trying to find the right guests, trying to find the right topics to talk about. Um, I've had a pretty um, not I wouldn't say boring life. I've had a pretty great life. Met a lot of interesting people along the way, but some of my stories I don't think would be believable if I told them. Going back to the days when I was just a 3-year-old kid on my father's shoulders, feeding an elephant in my backyard. Um, my dad was one of the junior JCs, Junior Chamber of Commerce members, and they used to bring the circus to town every year in Bloomfield, New Jersey, which obviously is outside of Newark, New Jersey, which was where I was born. But one year they decided to do a stunt to promote the circus, and we happened to have an old style barn in our yard as part of our house on Belleville Avenue. So this big tractor trailer pulls up and they back these two giant elephants out of the trailer, and then they start bringing them up our driveway, which was pretty steep. It was, about like that. It would go up there. So they brought them up there. My dad had a bag of peanuts, and they took a picture in the Bloomfield newspaper of them pushing the elephants into the barn, sort of as a staging thing. So the elephants have come to town and they needed a place for them to stay. And so there's several pictures of me feeding the elephants with peanuts. And, at 3 years old, I was like, I'm not even sure what's going on here, but I knew it was cool at the time. That was kind of a fun thing. Another story that's unbelievable is at the same age, that same barn, my sisters used to have like a little soda sale up there. They would get bottles of soda and take them up to the barn there in the hayloft. And then you would go up and you'd give them 5 cents and you'd get a glass of soda about that big. And so I was in the house, apparently. This is a story that's retold to me. I don't really remember it other than it's what was told to me, that they gave me a nickel to go get a soda. Well, we lived on this busy street, Belleville Avenue, and at the bottom of the street, across the street, there was a little candy store, what now would be like a 7-Eleven without gas. And the guy behind the counter was in there. I walked at 3 years old down the street, crossed the busy street, went into the store, gave the guy the nickel and said, I was told to come buy a soda. Well, apparently, which is what I'm told, the guy thought I was so cute that he gave me a bottle of soda for the nickel. And I walked back to the house, went into the house with the bottle of soda. They all looked at me and wondered where I got the soda from. And through a bit of detective work, they figured that I had gone down to the store. They went and talked to the store clerk. And yes, I had been down there. So that was kind of another weird story there. That was the first couple of things that happened in my life that made me think in my later years that maybe I was a little bit special. And it wasn't until a year later, when I was having my 4th birthday, we had already moved to Tucson, Arizona. We were living on Abington Road. That's where it was, Abington Road. And you got to remember, this is 1964. The fall of 1964 was November 16th. They didn't have Doppler radar. They didn't have all these sophisticated weather forecasts. They knew that it was cold out. They knew that the weather was kind of blasé. But my mother and father both told me, actually my mother did jokingly at the time, that I wouldn't have a birthday party unless it snowed. So I go into a closet in the bedroom that my sisters and I shared, right? 3 girls and me. I was the youngest, 4 years old. The next one was 9, which would have been Joanne. And then 11 was Kathy, and 13 or 14 was Georgette, maybe 15 at the time. Now, if I was 4, she was 14. And so I went up in the closet. There was a way I could climb up into this closet, and it went along the whole back wall of the bedroom. And there were little doors that opened up, and I climbed inside there and I closed the door and I prayed and I said, God, make it snow so I can have a birthday party. That was November 15th, the evening of. Next morning, woke up and I heard my mother and father talking in the kitchen, and they were loudly talking with disbelief that there was snow coming down. I ran outside and sure enough, it was snowing. And so I got my birthday party. Also got one of them little fire trucks that you pedal. You sit in and you pedal. That was my birthday present that year. So that was another sign that maybe there was something in this world for me. And I can tell you a whole bunch of other times that I was spared trouble. I got out of trouble. I had good things happen to me. I'll skip a few years going to my senior year of high school. Actually, I just graduated. I was going to Bob Jones University at the time. I'd gone my first semester, and I worked in the dining common to make money for my tuition. Because I never asked my parents, because my parents were Roman Catholic. I went off independent church there in a not Pentecostal. They were Methodist, Baptist. They were all kind of mixed, interdenominational thing there, but a Protestant church. My parents weren't going to support that at all. They wanted me to go to the University of Arizona. So I went to Bob Jones, and after the first semester, I came home and I was like, I can't go back for the second semester until I come up with $790. That's what it was going to cost me to go back, because I had to pay the previous semester before I could continue in the next semester. And I was having dinner at my friend Gail's house, Gail Ganser and her father, Richard, and her mom there. We were having dinner. We were actually having steak and lobster. Of course, he was a doctor. He was a podiatrist or something along that line. I'm not saying that right, because he's orthopedic surgeon, because he worked on bones. And not saying anything to anybody. I had not told anybody what I needed, not said a word. When I was leaving that night, they knew I was heading back to school, or hoping to head back to school. And they said God laid it upon their hearts to give me some money to help with my tuition. It was $790. And I was like, I can't believe this. It was exactly what I needed to go back. So there's another pretty cool story.